Yes, the brakes have power. Holy smokes.
Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad bad. What? This is what you call a bad bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad bad. What? This is what you call a bad bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Woo! This is what you call a bad bad. What? This is what you call a bad bad.
Okay, after putting these TRP EVO Pro brakes through a full season of riding, it's a perfect time to tell you about what my thoughts are. We've put these brakes through the test from long pedal days in Bellingham and Cumberland to massive bike park downhill days at Whistler, Silver Star, Sun Peaks, and more. And I can't wait to share with you what I think about these brakes. In this video, I'm going to share with you how the TRP EVO Pro brakes feel, how they compare to other brakes like the SRAM Mavens, the Hayes Dominion A4s, and even some of the Shimano brakes that I've recently ridden. I'm gonna let you know how they are to live with. So full bleeds, lever bleeds, all of that, what we do and bring with us when we travel with these brakes. And lastly, if you're already loving TRP brakes and riding the TRP DH-R EVOs, should you upgrade? And is that worth your money? All right, how do these TRP brakes feel, or what are their characteristics? Well, they feel like TRP brakes, and if you've ridden the TRP DH-R EVOs before, they feel pretty similar, but there are some differences. The similarities are that they have a similar lever feel from the point of nice modulation, and then if you pull nice and hard, you've got that power that kicks in with plenty of stopping for somebody like me that's just under 200 pounds fully kitted up. The power is never a problem. But that's where the lever feel similarities end. The lever is shaped much different. I would say more like a Shimano XT lever, which I actually prefer. I think that it brings your hand into a more natural position. It hooks your finger a little bit better and just overall feels more comfortable when braking. And I love the TRP DH-R EVO brakes, but these I even like more. The other thing that holds them apart is you have basically a pad adjustment. So you can adjust how much dead stroke you have on these brakes. Now I'm gonna get right into it with you and say that it is wonderful to have that dead stroke adjustment, because on the older TRP DH-R EVO brakes, once the brake pad would wear down, you would find that you'd have much more lever throw in order to get to your bite point. And having the pad adjustment so that you can really dial that in as the brake pads are wearing is something really nice to have. But that being said, I do wish that there was even more pad adjustment on these brakes. I would take twice as much as they gave me, because I find that even after a really solid bleed, I am still minimizing that pad adjustment as much as I can so that I only have a little bit of brake lever movement that I need in order to engage the brakes. So it's kind of like a win-lose scenario for me. I think that it's great, but at the same time, I wish that there was a little bit more. When it comes to bleeding, it's exactly the same. The TRP EVO Pros and the TRP DH-R EVOs have the same procedure. It's super easy to bleed them. I've done full bleeds. I've done many lever bleeds on these. In fact, when we're on a big bike park day, it's very common for us to do 20 or 30 miles in the bike park. And then the next day we started off with a lever bleed just to make sure that everything is firming up nicely. So after a long day of braking, I did experience or have experienced some brake fade, whether it's like a huge day of shuttling in Finale or Malini, or if it's like a big day of riding at Whistler or Sun Peaks. The brakes would just have a little bit of what I'm calling brake fade, and that doesn't necessarily to me mean that they're getting less powerful. It just means that you have more lever throw in order to get the brake pads to engage. And it's another scenario where having more of that pad adjustment would be nice on a super long, hard downhill day. I'd be lying to you if I said that there was nothing that changed over a full day of riding in the bike park or shuttling.
Are you ready?
That being said, doing a lever bleed, like if you're at the bike park, is so fast. I could do a full lever bleed here in less well, probably about 5 minutes, and they use mineral oil. And that's another thing that's really nice about them is when you're traveling and you're using mineral oil, it's very easy to find mineral oil out all around the world in order to bleed these brakes. So although we do keep TRP mineral oil with us almost all the time, sometimes you have to do like a full bleed and you run out, and then you need to do another bleed later on in your trip. You can use Shimano or some other mineral oil that someone else has brought with them, and you can just bum a little bit and you're good to go. So that is incredibly nice to have. When comparing these brakes to some other big name brakes, let's start off with the SRAM Mavens, which I've ridden quite a bit this season. The difference between the TRPs and the Mavens is that the TRPs just have a lot more soft modulation feel than the Mavens. Now, I've come to actually really love some of the Maven brakes when they've done the bleed right, which doesn't seem like it's all that common, but the TRPs are much more forgiving. So you have about this much space, it feels like, to modulate the brakes before that they really give you that skidding bite point. Whereas the Mavens, you are pretty much getting right into that skidding bite point right away, with the exception that they still feel, the Mavens, they still feel a little bit more modulating and cushy than like a Shimano XT or a Shimano Dior brake. Those are just on off, like skid or no skid, and yeah, I know you can modulate them a little bit, but it's like night and day difference going from like no modulation at all with the Shimano brakes, a little bit of modulation and a ton of power with the SRAM Mavens, and then a lot of modulation and still a good amount of power, but not nearly as powerful as the Mavens, the TRPs. I would say if you're a really large rider and you feel like you have trouble with stopping power on brakes, then the Mavens might be something that you go ahead and deal with the bleeding issues that are hard to get just right and try and nail that down, or find a mechanic that's really good at it, because they will provide a larger, heavier rider more of a really kicky oomph in your brake control, or you're like needing to brake really hard. Or if you're like throwing a nose pivots all the time, it can be nice to have that little extra oomph in the Mavens versus the TRPs. But the TRPs are a much more comfortable, easy to get along with brake when you're riding gnarly steep stuff and you have to control your brakes and not skid too much. Then if we're comparing the TRPs to the Hayes Dominion A4s, they actually feel pretty darn similar. Both have a really nice light lever throw feeling, so you don't get hardly any hand fatigue from having to pull the lever at all. The TRPs modulate a little bit more than the Hayes, and the Hayes are a little bit more powerful. If you just have ridden both of them, you could easily go with one or the other, and you could even decide, you know, I like the TRPs just because they use mineral oil and I travel a bunch and it's easier to come up with that. And I think that either of those brakes are fantastic, and I would go with TRPs or the Hayes any day of the week, and they're pretty darn similar. So I've kind of answered my question already about how they are to live with. They are great to live with. Like, I've had to replace levers and do tons of bleeds on these, and they're very easy to work with. They are just super nice brakes to have. The bleeding intervals that we found with these brakes are about 3 months, I would say, of riding hard. And what ends up happening isn't necessarily the brakes start feeling bad, but that when you do a lever bleed, you'll see a lot of dirt coming up in the reservoir cup here, and you just can't get rid of it. So when that happens, that seems to be a sign that you do a full flush bleed and get that mineral oil looking nice and clean again. And that's taken us about 3 months of hard riding. So that's the interval that we've found for having to maintain these brakes. The other thing is the rotors are super nice in that they're really thick rotors and they don't bend that easily. And if you do bend them, you can just bend them back and it's no big deal. But you do have to pay attention to them because they will, like any other rotor, wear out eventually. And if you don't pay attention to them, they can lose their bite strength and grip if you've gone way too long without replacing them. Ask us how we know.
Front brake, front brake, front brake. Oh.
So you just have to look at the little dot, which is really easy. You don't have to measure them or anything. And when that dot disappears, you buy new rotors and you're good to go. Their customer service is also dynamite. I have had to warranty a couple of very well used pieces of TRP products, and the warranty department gets back to you really quickly and is incredibly helpful to get you back on the trail ASAP. living with the TRPs is pretty much a 10 out of 10. I can't really think of a better score to give them. So the question that I have left to ask is, if you're riding the older TRPs, the mouthful DHR EVOs, should you upgrade to these TRP DH-R Pros? I think the only reason that you should upgrade is if you've got extra money sitting in your pocket and you've grabbed these levers and you think that they would be a solid choice for you to put on your bike. But I think that the older version, if you still have them, are incredibly solid. In fact, Emily is still running those and she loves them. So I don't think that there's any reason to rush out and buy the new ones. But if you were going to set up a new set of brakes, or you're gonna be upgrading from like a lower end brake, and it's not that much more to get the DHR Pro, then I would go ahead and get these brakes all year long. I think they're fantastic. If you have any questions about anything that I've mentioned here, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to discuss if I would upgrade or not with you and answer any questions that you might have. So thanks for watching. See you on the next video. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day.